reading session. Let us begin with prayers. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Nitinamine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratvishe Namaha Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Reading from the book Teachings of Lord Chaitanya by His Divine Grace Vishwaguru Abhay Charanaravinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Chapter 27 entitled Lord Chaitanya and Rāmānanda Rāya. The author of Chaitanya Charitamrita has described Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as the ocean of transcendental knowledge and Sri Rāmānanda Rāya as the cloud which is produced from that ocean. Rāmānanda Rāya was a greatly advanced scholar in devotional service, and by the grace of Lord Chaitanya, he gathered all transcendental conclusions, just as a cloud gathers water from the ocean. As clouds appear from the ocean, distribute water all over the world, and return to the ocean, so by the grace of Lord Chaitanya, Ramananda Raya attained his higher knowledge of devotional service and again, after retiring from service, resolved to see Lord Chaitanya in Puri. When Lord Chaitanya visited the southern part of India, he first went to the temple known as Jiyara Nrsimha Kshetra. This temple is situated in a place known as Simhachalam, 5 miles from the Vishakhapatna railway station. The temple is situated on the top of a hill. There are many temples in that area, but Jiyara Nrsimha Kshetra temple is the largest of all. This temple is filled with beautiful sculpture of interest to many students, and due to its popularity, it is a very rich temple. An inscription in the temple states that the king of Vijayanagara formerly decorated this temple with gold and even smeared the body of the deity with gold. To facilitate attendance, there are 5 apartments for visitors at the temple. The temple is managed by priests of the Ramanujacharya sect. When Lord Chaitanya visited this temple, he praised the deity and quoted a verse from Sridhar Swami's commentary on Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 9, verse 1. Ugropi anugra evayam swabhaktanam nrikeshari keshariva swa- swapotanam anyesham ugra vikramaha. Although Lord Nrsimha is very severe to demons and non-devotees, he is very kind to his submissive devotees like Prahlada. Lord Narasimha appeared as a half-man, half-lion incarnation of Krishna when Prahlada, a boy devotee of the Lord, was harassed by his demoniac father Hiranyakashipu. Just as a lion is very ferocious to other animals but very kind and submissive to his cubs, so Lord Narasimha appeared ferocious to Hiranyakashipu and very kind to his devotee Prahlada. After visiting the temple of Jiyara Narasimha, the Lord proceeded further south into India and ultimately reached the bank of the Godavari. While on the bank of this river, the Lord remembered the Yamuna river in Vrindavan and he considered the trees on the bank to be the forest of Vrindavan. Thus he was in ecstasy there. After taking a bath on the banks of the Godavari, The Lord sat near the bank and began chanting, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. While sitting and chanting, the Lord saw that the governor of the province, Sri Rāmānanda Rāya, had reached the banks of the river accompanied by his associates, which included many Brahmanas. Previously, the Lord had been asked by Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya to visit the great devotee Rāmānanda Rāya at Kabur. The Lord The Lord could understand that the man approaching the river bank was Rāmānanda Rāya, and he desired to see him immediately. However, because he was in the renounced order of life, he restrained himself from going to see a political personage. Being a great devotee, Rāmānanda Rāya was attracted by the features of Lord Chaitanya, who appeared as a sannyasi, and he himself came to see the Lord. Upon reaching Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Ramananda Raya prostrated himself and offered his obeisances and respects. Lord Chaitanya received him by vibrating Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. When Ramananda Raya presented his credentials, Lord Chaitanya embraced him and both of them were overwhelmed with ecstasy. The Brahmanas who accompanied Ramananda Raya were surprised to see them embracing in transcendental ecstasy. The Brahmanas were all stalwart followers of the rituals, and they could not understand the meaning of such devotional symptoms. Indeed, they were rather surprised to see such a great sannyasi touch a Shudra, and they were also surprised to see Ramananda Raya, who was a great governor and practically king of that province, crying simply by touching a sannyasi. Lord Chaitanya understood the Brahmana's thoughts, and considering the unfavorable situation, he pacified himself. After this, Lord Chaitanya and Ramananda Raya sat down together. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya has spoken very highly of you, Lord Chaitanya informed him. So I have come to see you. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya considers me to be one of his devotees, Ramananda Raya replied. Therefore, he has kindly recommended that you see me. Ramananda Raya very much appreciated the Lord's touching a man of wealth. A king, governor, or any politician is always absorbed in thoughts of political affairs and pounds shilling pence. Therefore, such persons are avoided by sannyasis. Lord Chaitanya, however, knew Ramananda Raya to be a great devotee, and therefore he did not hesitate to touch and embrace him. Ramananda Raya was surprised by Lord Chaitanya's behavior, and he cited a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 8, Verse 4. The great personalities and sages appear in the homes of worldly men just to show them mercy. Lord Chaitanya's special treatment of Ramananda Raya indicated that although Ramananda Raya was born in a non-Brahminical family, he was far, far advanced in spiritual knowledge and activity. Therefore, he was more respectable than one who simply happens to be born in a Brahminical family. Although Ramananda, out of his meek and gentle behavior, considered himself to be born in a lower Shudra family, Lord Chaitanya, nonetheless, considered him to be situated in the highest transcendental stage of devotion. Devotees never advertise themselves as great, but the Lord is very anxious to advertise the glory of his devotees. After meeting for the first time that morning on the banks of the Godavari, Ramananda Raya and Lord Chaitanya separated with the understanding that Ramananda Raya would come in the evening to see the Lord. That evening, after the Lord had taken his bath and seated himself, Ramananda Raya came to see him with a servant. He offered his respects and sat down before the Lord. Before Ramananda Raya could even ask the Lord a question about the advancement of spiritual knowledge, the Lord himself said, please quote some verses from scripture about the ultimate goal of human life. Sri Ramananda Raya at once replied, a person who is sincere in his occupational duty will gradually develop a sense of God consciousness. He also quoted a verse from Vishnu Purana 3.8.9, which states that the Supreme Lord is worshipped by one's occupational duty and that there is no alternative for satisfying him. The purport is that human life is meant for understanding one's relationship with the Supreme Lord, and by acting in that way, any human being can dovetail himself in the service of the Lord by discharging his prescribed duties. For this purpose, human society is divided into four classes: the intellectuals or Brahmanas, the administrators or Kshatriyas, the merchants or Vaishyas, and the laborers or Shudras. For each class, there are prescribed rules and regulations, as well as occupational functions. The prescribed duties and qualities of the four classes are described in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, verses 41 to 44. A society which is civilized and organized should follow the prescribed rules and regulations for the particular classes. At the same time, for spiritual advancement, the four stages of ashrama must also be followed, namely student life or brahmacharya, householder or grihastha, retired or vanaprastha, and the renounced life, sannyasa. Ramananda Raya stated that those who strictly follow the rules and regulations of these eight social divisions can actually satisfy the Supreme Lord, and one who does not follow them certainly spoils his human form of life and glides toward hell. One can peacefully execute the goal of human life simply by following the rules and regulations which apply to one's self. The character of a particular person develops by following the regulative principles in accordance with one's birth, association, and education. The divisions of society are so designed that many people of different character can be regulated under them for the peaceful administration of society and for spiritual advancement as well. The social classes can be further characterized as follows. 1. He whose aim is to understand the Supreme Lord, the personality of Godhead, and devote himself to the learning of the Vedas and similar literatures is called a Brahmana. 2. He who has taken to displaying force and entering government administration is called a Kshatriya. 3. He who is engaged in agriculture, herding cows, and carrying out a trade or business is called a Vaishya. 4. He who has no special knowledge but is satisfied by serving the other three classes is called a Shudra. If one faithfully discharges his prescribed duties, he is sure to advance toward perfection. Thus, regulated life is the source of perfection for everyone. When regulated life culminates in devotional service to the Lord, one attains his perfection. Otherwise, such regulations are simply a useless waste of time. After hearing Ramananda Raya expound upon the proper execution of a regulated life, Lord Chaitanya said that such regulations are simply external. Indirectly, he asked Ramananda to expound on something superior to such an external exhibition. Formal execution of rituals and religion is useless unless it culminates in the perfection of devotional service. Lord Vishnu is not satisfied simply by a ritualistic adherence to Vedic instructions. He is actually pleased when one attains the stage of devotional service. According to the verse cited by Ramananda Raya, one can rise to the point of devotional service by ritualistic performance. In Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna, who appeared to deliver all classes of people, states that a human being can attain the highest perfectional stage of life by worshipping the Supreme Lord, from whom everything has emanated, through his occupational duty. स्वे स्वे कर्मण्यभिरतः संसिद्धिं लभते नरः स्वकर्मनिरतसिद्धिं यथा विन्दति तच्छृणु यतः प्रवृत्तिर्भूतानां येन सर्वमिदं ततं स्वकर्मणा तमभ्यर्च्य सिद्धिं विन्दन्ति मानवा. By, by following his qualities of work, every man can become perfect. Now please hear from me how this can be done. By worshipping the Lord, who is the source of all beings and who is all pervading, man can, in the performance of his own duty, attain perfection. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, verses 45 and 46. This perfectional process is followed by great devotees like Bodhayana, Tanka, Dramida, Guhadeva, Karpardi, and Kapardhi and Bharuchi. All these great personalities have followed this particular path of perfection. The Vedic injunctions also aim in this direction. Rāmānanda Rāya wanted to present these facts before the Lord, but apparently discharge of ritualistic duties wasn't sufficient, for Lord Chaitanya said that it was external. Lord Chaitanya was pointing out that if a man has a material conception of life, he cannot attain the highest perfection, even if he follows all the ritualistic regulations. Thus ends chapter 27 of the book Teachings of Lord Chaitanya, entitled Lord Chaitanya and Ramananda Raya. Now we shall read the next chapter, chapter 28, Relationship with the Supreme. Lord Chaitanya rejected the statement cited by Ramananda Raya from Vishnu Purana because the Lord wished to reject a class of philosophers known as Karma Mimamsa. Karma Mimamsa philosophers accept God to be subject to one's work. Their conclusion is that if one works nicely, God is bound to give good results. Thus, one can understand from the statement of Vishnu Purana that Vishnu, the Supreme Lord, has no independence but is bound to award a certain kind of result to the worker. Such a dependent goal becomes subjected to the worshipper who accepts the Supreme Lord to be both impersonal and personal, as he may wish. Actually, this philosophy stresses the impersonal feature of the Supreme Absolute Truth, because Lord Chaitanya did not like such impersonalism, he rejected it. Tell me if you know something beyond this conception of the Supreme Absolute Truth, Lord Chaitanya finally said. Ramananda Raya understood the purpose of Lord Chaitanya and stated that it is better to give up the results of fruitive activities. He quoted a verse from Bhagavad Gita. Yat karoshi yadashnasi yad juhoshi dadasi yat tapasyasi kaunteya tad kurushva madarpanam. O son of Kunti, all that you do, all that you eat, all that you offer and give away, as well as all austerities that you may perform, should be done as an offering unto me. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, verse 27. There is also a similar passage in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 11, chapter 2, verse 36, which states that one should submit everything, his fruitive activities, body, speech, mind, senses, intelligence, soul, and modes of nature, to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayana. Lord Chaitanya, however, also rejected this second statement, saying, if you know of something higher, state it. Offering everything to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as enjoined by Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, is better than impersonally making the Supreme Lord subject to our work. But it is still short of surrendering activities to the Supreme Lord. A worker's identification with material existence cannot be changed without proper guidance. Such fruitive activity will continue one's material existence. A worker is simply instructed here to offer the results of his work to the Supreme Lord, but there is no information given to enable one to get out of the material entanglement. Therefore, Lord Chaitanya rejected his proposal. After having his suggestions rejected twice, Rāmānanda proposed that one should forsake his occupational activities altogether and by detachment rise to the transcendental plane. In other words, he recommended complete renunciation of worldly life, and to support this view, he cited evidence from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 11, Chapter 11, verse 32, wherein the Lord says, in the scriptures, I have described the ritualistic principles and the way one can become situated in devotional service. That is the highest perfection of religion. Ramananda also quoted Lord Krishna's injunction in Bhagavad Gita, Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja, aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayishyami ma shuchaha. Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, verse 66. Lord Chaitanya also rejected this third proposal, for he wanted to demonstrate that renunciation in itself is not sufficient. There must be positive engagement. Without positive engagement, the highest perfectional stage cannot be attained. Generally, there are two kinds of philosophers in the renounced order of life. The goal of one is nirvana, and the goal of the other is the impersonal Brahman effulgence. Such philosophers cannot imagine that they can reach beyond nirvana and the Brahman effulgence to the Vaikuntha planets of the spiritual sky. Because in simple renunciation there is no conception of spiritual planets and spiritual activities, Lord Chaitanya rejected this third proposal. Rāmānanda Rāya then cited more evidence from Bhagavad Gita. Brahmabhuta prasannatma na shochati na kankshati samasarveshu bhuteshu madbhaktim labhate param. One who is thus transcendentally situated at once realizes the supreme Brahman. He never laments nor desires to have anything. He is equally disposed to every living entity. In that state he attains pure devotional service unto me. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, verse 54. Ramananda Raya first suggested devotional service rendered with renunciation of fruitive activities, but here he suggests that devotional service with full knowledge and spiritual realization added is superior. Lord Chaitanya, however, rejected this proposal also because simply by renouncing material results in Brahman realization, one does not realize the spiritual world and spiritual activities. Although there is no material contamination when one attains the stage of Brahman realization, that stage is not perfect because there is no positive engagement in spiritual activity. Because it is still on the mental plane, it is external. The pure living entity is not liberated unless he is completely engaged in spiritual activity. As long as one is absorbed in impersonal thoughts or in thoughts of the void, his entrance into an eternal blissful life of knowledge is not completed. When spiritual knowledge is not complete, one will be hindered in his attempt to cleanse the mind of all material variegatedness. Thus, impersonalists are frustrated in their attempts to make the mind void by artificial meditation. It is very difficult to void the mind of all material conceptions. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, क्लेशोऽधिकतरस्तेषाम् अव्यक्तासक्तचेतसाम् अव्यक्ता हि गतिर्दुःखम् देहवद्भिरवाप्यते. For those whose minds are attracted to the unmanifested, impersonal feature of the Supreme, advancement is very troublesome. To make progress in that discipline is always difficult for those who are embodied. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 12, verse 5. The liberation which is obtained by such impersonal meditation is not complete. Therefore, Lord Chaitanya rejected it. After his fourth proposal was rejected, Ramananda Raya said that devotional service rendered without any attempt or at cultivation of knowledge or mental speculation is the highest stage of perfection. To support this view, he gave evidence from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, 14th chapter, verse 3, wherein Lord Brahma tells the Supreme Personality of Godhead, ज्ञाने प्रयासमुदपास्य नमन्त एव जीवन्ति सन्मुखरितां भवदीयवार्ताम् स्थाने स्थिता श्रुतिगतां तनुवान् मनोभिर् ये प्रायशो जितोऽप्यसि त्रैस्त्रिलोक्याम्. My dear Lord, one should give up monistic speculation and the cultivation of knowledge altogether. He should begin his spiritual life in devotional service by receiving information of the Lord's activities from a realized devotee of the Lord. If one cultivates his spiritual life by following these principles and keeping himself on the honest path in life, then, although your Lordship is never conquered, you become conquered by such a process. When Ramanandaraya presented this proposal, Lord Chaitanya at once said, "Yes, this is right. In this age, there is no possibility of acquiring spiritual knowledge by renunciation, by mixed devotional service, by fruitive activity in mixed devotional service, or by the culture of knowledge. Because most people are fallen, and because there is no time to elevate them by a gradual process, the best course, according to Lord Chaitanya, is to let them remain in whatever condition they are in, but to engage them in hearing of the activities of the Supreme Lord, as those activities are explained in Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. The transcendental messages of the scriptures should be received from the lips of realized souls. In this way, a person may continue to live in whatever condition he is in and still make progress in spiritual advancement. Thus, one can surely advance and fully realize the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Although Lord Chaitanya accepted these principles, he still requested Ramananda Raya to further explain advanced devotional service. Thus, Lord Chaitanya gave Ramananda Raya a chance to discuss gradual advancement from the principles of Varnashrama Dharma, the four castes and four orders of spiritual life. Lord Chaitanya rejected the Varnashrama Dharma and the offering of fruitive activity because in the field of executing pure devotional service, there is very little use for such principles. Without self realization, the artificial methods of devotional service cannot be accepted as pure devotional service. Self realized pure devotional service is completely different from all other kinds of transcendental activity. The highest stage of transcendental activity is always free from all material desires, fruitive efforts, and speculative attempts at knowledge. The highest stage concentrates on the simple, favorable execution of pure devotional service. Ramananda Raya could understand the motive of Lord Chaitanya. Therefore, he stated that attainment of pure love of Godhead is the highest perfectional stage. There is a very nice verse in Padyavali which is said to be composed by Ramananda Raya himself. The purport of the verse is, as long as there is hunger in the belly and one feels like eating and drinking, one can become happy by taking anything eatable. Similarly, there may be much paraphernalia for worshipping the Supreme Lord, but when that is mixed with pure love of Godhead, it becomes an actual source of transcendental happiness. Ramananda Raya also composed another verse which states that even after millions and millions of births, one cannot achieve a sense of devotional service. But if somehow or other one desires to attain devotional service, the association of a pure devotee will render it possible. Thus, one should have a strong desire to engage in devotional service. In these two verses, Ramananda Raya has described the regulative principles and developed love of Godhead. Lord Chaitanya wanted to bring him to the stage of developed love of Godhead, and he wanted him to speak from that platform. Thus, the discussion between Ramananda Raya and Lord Chaitanya proceeds on the basis of love of Godhead. If love of Godhead is elevated to the personal platform, it is called Prema Bhakti. In the beginning of Prema Bhakti, a particular relationship between the Supreme Lord and the devotee is not established, but when Prema Bhakti develops, a relationship with the Supreme Lord is manifested in different transcendental flavors. The first stage is that of servitude, wherein the Supreme Lord is accepted as the master and the devotee as the eternal servitor. When Lord Chaitanya accepted this process, Ramananda Raya described the relationship between the servitor and the master. As described in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 9, Chapter 5, verse 16, Durvasa Muni, a great mystic yogi who considered himself very elevated, envied Maharaj Ambarisha, who was known as the greatest devotee of the time. In an attempt to harass Maharaj Ambarisha, Durvasa Muni met with a great catastrophe and was defeated by the Sudarshana Chakra of the Lord. Durvasa Muni admitted his fault and said, for pure devotees who are always engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, nothing is considered impossible, for they are engaged in the service of the Supreme Lord, whose very name is sufficient for liberation. In Stotra Ratna, verse 46, Yamunacharya writes, My Lord, those who keep themselves independent of your service are helpless. They work on their own account, and they receive no support from superior authority. Therefore, I long for the time when I shall engage fully in your transcendental loving service without any desire for material satisfaction and without being confined to the mental plane. Only when I engage in such unalloyed devotional service will I enjoy actual spiritual life. Upon hearing this statement, the Lord requested Ramananda Raya to go even further. Thus ends chapter 28 of the book Teachings of Lord Chaitanya, entitled Relationship with the Supreme. We shall continue to read in the next session. Thank you all for joining. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai.
Jai.
Vishwa Guru Srila
Yeah.
Prabhupada ki jai.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Krishna.
Great
Thank you,
Prabhuji.
Prabhuji.